All right, so in the Tao Te Ching, number 6.
Number 6. The Tao is called the Great Mother, empty yet inexhaustible. It gives birth to infinite worlds. It is always present within you. You can use it any way you want. Okay.
So what does that mean to you?
I kind of feel like it can be like the Tao has like any face you put on it. It's like whatever narrative you have inside, whatever's going on inside you in your own nature is kind of like what's happening with the Tao. I've kind of lost my train of thought there. But what's happening within is what's happening without.
So this is a short one. The Tao is called the Great Mother. I think the contrast I see with the Tao, they're always using the mother as an example. And you notice with the West, it's always like the father.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the contrast, and the Tao is more yin and soft, and it's more like subtle. So sometimes people could like forget it because it's like not as like authoritative and like in your face. So I think it's just showing the balance of like the power of the yin, of the soft. So like we all have a mother and a father, and our father has obviously a huge influence on us, but at the same time look at the mother and her influence, and how we're born and she gave birth to us, and then all of a sudden, you know, her influence in our lives is more of a subtle influence rather than a direct, like fatherly influence. So you look at like Western philosophy, like the father represents that, and then the Eastern is like the mother. So I think you need to understand both in order to bring it together into that balance.
Mm.
So there's always like references in the Tao about the mother, and it's going to be continually throughout this whole text. And then empty yet inexhaustible. So it's like basically talking about the balance again. Like empty is like empty, and then inexhaustible is like unlimited.
Right.
So then it's like showing, once again, highlighting both, like the power of both. So then like for the most part, we always think about like having more things is always good, but rarely do we think about having less as being good.
Right.
So like this is talking about emptiness and how important it is to have, like how emptiness could be a good thing. Like even with this room, like sometimes if you have too much stuff, can't move around, you can't really function and use the room like properly. So like sometimes open space is really important, especially for when we train. And then obviously, as you can see, sometimes having equipment is important too. You know, having like a bench press or barbell squat, pull-up bar, like you're using something, equipment to get stronger.
Yeah.
But then there's that emptiness that's important. So then, you know, you see our meditation room, we try to keep it clear as much as we can so we could do meditation in there. We could do sparring, we could do some stretching. Just that openness is important. But then, of course, like I said, the equipment, like the couches that we're sitting on right now, there's some benefit to that as well.
Yeah.
You know, gives birth to infinite worlds.
Like it says, the Tao could be anything. This one.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything. It can be used any way you want. Is that what it says at the end too?
It is always present within you. You can use it any way you want. Yeah, so I mean, just basically telling you that it's with you at all times. And I think sometimes people that don't know the Tao, they just don't realize that. So then, to me, that's why I try to teach meditation the way that I do, is I try to draw the wisdom out of you rather than having people depend on what I have to say all the time. because then you end up having to depend on outside sources for guidance towards truth, when in actuality the truth is already in you and you just have to realize it. So I think that's one of the major things that about Tao that's different, and even with Buddha's teachings, is talking about that the wisdom is in you already. But a lot of the Western teaching is like, no, like you got to be authorized and certified and officialized to know this truth, and you got to go through us. A lot of the dependence on others. So like the West is more like, hey, go to the doctor and he'll help you. The East is more like, you could heal your own body. You just have to know the proper approach. It's almost like training every day, meditating every day, eating right, sleeping right. You're kind of like healing your own body, opposed to like depending on some outside professional to kind of do everything for you, or like depending on the police to help you, opposed to like defending yourself at that moment through your own like ability. So the East is always the East is like teaching that inner truth, and then the West is like that dependency on the outside. And it's not like saying one is better than the other, but just realizing that you do have that wisdom and that truth in you if you know how to tap into it.
Yeah.
And then like basically benefiting from both, because obviously, you know, I like Bruce Lee a lot, and Osho, and you know, Lao Tzu. You learn from outside sources as well, but then there is like this wisdom that you have within yourself that you shouldn't deny, and that you should allow to come forward, because Bruce Lee became Bruce Lee because he tapped into that.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's just some random person. He became well known and famous and respected as Bruce Lee. And we all have that. Like, we are who we are, and we have the ability to contribute what we can to other people's growth. It's not always just depending on just one person. This idea of like, oh, there's only one Buddha. Well, actually, there could be thousands of Buddhas if they tap into their inner truth and they become enlightened themselves. So then you have multiple Buddhas, because Bruce Lee could essentially be considered a Buddha. Lao Tzu could be considered a Buddha, and Osho could be considered Buddha. You could be considered Buddha. Myself can be considered a Buddha, and then we share, you know, our truth.
Yeah.
You know. Anything else?
No, I was gonna say, it does seem that that's kind of like the separation between East versus West, and like you said, and just as more specifically the Tao, where they really focus on like tapping into the self as opposed to the separation.
Yeah.
You know, find the nature within yourself, like this thing that's already there. It's not a debating thing. It's almost medical in that way. It's like, no, you have it just like you have your body. You have this
right
know-how in a way, or this innate, you know, instinct, if you're able to become aware and tap into it.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And I think they don't really push that. They don't really teach that in the West, because in a way it's kind of bad for business. It's like, as everybody does everything on their own, and you don't do things for other people, then it hurts business. You know, because people, you know, like say this whole self-checkout thing. Oh, I'll just check it out myself. You don't need the cashier now, and then they lose a job. Or I'll just cook myself, and then you don't go to the restaurant, and then now they can't make money. So it's like this idea of like, there is good things in like basically sharing energies and building community. And it's like people have their specialties. You know, some people, they're really good at fixing cars, and you that's not your thing, and you pay them money, so then they have something to do. And then you have your specialty, and then people pay you. So there's obviously a positive to exchanging things and building community. But then this is kind of like teaching like the realization of the things that you can do on your own, and just kind of like be self-sufficient in a way, you know. And that creates the balance. But like I said, the culture could almost do away with these teachings, so then make everybody dependent for everything. So then it's just only about building business, and building dependency, and making people feel like that they can't do things on their own. you know. So that's why like studying these teachings is important, because then it creates that balance. So then you could see like the positives and the benefits of like tapping into your own like basically reservoir of truth that we all essentially have.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it really means to be enlightened, or you know, they might call it nirvana and Buddha or something like Buddha's teachings, but in the Tao, it's just basically saying the Tao is within you.
Right.
You know, it's within everybody.
Right.
The thing is, do you realize that? And that's the difference with this type of the teaching. I think, like I said, I don't really study that much about the Western, but sometimes I hear the phrase, "the God is within you." It could be something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where, yeah, God is within you. So similar to that is the Tao is within you too. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay.